But it's a problem. I mean, sorry to interrupt you, Chamberlain. Are you trying to reach?
Let's get to Max. I think he's the one who his voice is filtering through. Max, let's get you back on now. If you're, could you give us your reading of that scenario, that unfortunate one in Yobe yesterday? Many were thinking, oh dear, if this is happening in spite of all of this that the government is putting in, is it out of place for people to expect this to even stop going on, having seen the strategy that we're deploying at the moment?
Well, no, not at all.
Go ahead.
That at every turning point, the Islamist terrorists have defined the architecture of the war. They were the first to start asymmetrical war. The government tried their best to stop it. And then they redefined the war again by going unconventional. And that is what the military are trained for. And military got the best out of them and defeated them on that. So they have resorted back again to what they know how to do best, and that is suicide bombing asymmetrical. Therefore, it is very difficult to again monitor these activities without raising concern of the citizens. In every military activity, there must be citizen mobilization. And that is where the government needs to get involved with National Orientation Agency, the Jamaatul Islam here now, the Supreme Council of Islam, so that we can now begin to change the narratives from the IDP camps. The colonel is quite correct in his postulation that we must change our tactics. And I agree with him. Now, we cannot overflow the issue of moving command and control, because that is part of military operations, to bring in your command to your forward base. And it is nothing there's nothing extraordinary about it. But what is dynamic, however, is the fact that the Commander-in-Chief and the President of the Federation have also placed Major General Brutai to head the jointness and with a command and control headquarters in Yamena. That is very, very instructive. Then, the military high command has also established another command center in Yola. So the synergy of all this will give us a better result than we have had in the past. But I think that the most important thing now, since Boko Haram has exposed our underbelly, what we now need is that artificial intelligence from the sky, and this is the satellite imagery, to know their movements at night. The aircraft that we have that does reconnaissance may not be flying 24/7 on the air. Therefore, Nigeria needs to begin to realign itself as a regional power to begin to put in a satellite in the orbit that can do perennial intelligence and be able to give our defense the added advantage in fighting this insurgency. If you recall, the president asked the G7 nations to provide him with this artificial intelligence, which will give us the ability to bring this to a very good conclusion. And this is the same satellite imagery that was promised after the abduction of the Chibok girls, but never came true. And I hope with the renewed relationship between Nigeria and the G7 nation that this thing can come in. Now, tackling asymmetrical or being able to arrest the suicide bombers, it's not going to be an easy one. Nobody has succeeded anywhere in the world to stop it. But citizen mobilization and getting the outer source intelligence, getting humid intelligence, will enable the military and the various respective agencies to monitor communities and know when a suicide bomber takes off. So it is a collective effort and not just that of the military alone.
Well, Colonel, to a large extent, it would seem that Mr. Gbanite is on the same page with you in terms of, what you think the strategy should be right now. Well, he's replied just to confirm that he is. But, I'm looking at the story that happened yesterday, and what we found there was that there were 2 suicide bombers. The first walked into the civilian JTF, was the headquarters or office, and was able to do damage. The second, they immediately spotted him, and while he was running away, when they went after him in hot pursuit, he decided to detonate all the same and still killed people around him. In that kind of situation, what you might get is the people will be in a quandary as to how to, when they find that there could be a potential suicide bomber, you might find that people might be reluctant to want to lose their lives. How would you have said that kind of situation be handled?
Well, it's a very dicey one. Excuse me. It's a very dicey one. And, that brings one to the, brings to fore the issue of commitment. Commitment. We must all have that sense of commitment, And when you are committed, you can die for the cause.
So the deaths were inevitable yesterday. There was nothing that the people could have done.
There was nothing they could have done. There was nothing they could have done. And in any given situation, there must be casualty.
But how do we build on the commitment of the people to maximize that commitment such that we could see, what's the word now? A huge number of people coming forward and say, look, we identify with this kind of attitude and spirit because we're all in this.
That is the national orientation and awareness, or reorientation and awareness that is needed. So government need to do so much more than we are saying right now.
But it has to come with, don't you think it has to come with some sort of structure? Because no matter how much you tell someone about something that needs to be done, if he comes into that kind of realm saying, all right, my mindset is such that I'm ready to help out either by volunteering information or whichever way he chooses. And maybe he goes out there and sees maybe the first person in the line of duty, maybe a security official, whichever one now, and then he has that wrong impression or wrong experience. It will affect certain things here.
Now, let me tell you, you see, there's a lot that we really need to do. We need to strengthen the NEMA. We need to strengthen NEMA. And this strengthening has to be across the board. We need to start from the ward level and do it up to the streets, the quarters, the town, the villages, the towns. We have to set up this, structures there.
What about the police?
Well, yes, the police too. Again, the best time, I think, is now to look into what you call community policing. Community policing. And also give a second thought to even state policing.
That's part of APC manifesto, so I think it's not going to be too far from them to do
it. I think we should give that an opportunity, because when you talk about community policing, if in a community a strange person comes into the community, someone should be able to report it. Okay? You should know the house where that fellow has come into. Okay? And who that fellow is, probably.
So you think that they could have picked up those two people way earlier than they did?
I bet you they would.
If there was a structure.
If there was a structure. And these are things that we have to, introduce into our system right now.